Dear patrons, welcome back to our Zooming with LD series for the month of April. You always want to start out strong, so we're pleased to welcome our first $1 billion market cap on our platform. It has been on my bucket list for as long as I can remember, and the stock has done incredibly well over the past 12 months. Pyrogenesis, ticker PYR on the NASDAQ, as well as the TSX, is a company focused on torching the hell out of things to change more than just the chemical composition. From solid to liquid to gas to plasma, their torches can heat up as hot as the surface of our very own sun. I am confident that the company's account payable department most likely sleeps very well at night knowing of the technology that they carry. PYR's technology has countless applications in a wide range of industries, and you're beginning to see some of the early traction. Joining us on the call today to discuss pyrogenesis, it is my privilege to welcome Mr. Peter Pascali, the president and CEO of the company. Peter, thank you for presenting to our community today. The floor is now yours.
Thanks, Chris. With that type of introduction, I think we should just wrap it up now.
We have 59 minutes to go, my friend.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for attending this morning. I'm presenting to you Pyrogenesis Canada Inc. My name is Peter Pascali. I'm the CEO of the company. As Chris mentioned, we are listed on the TSX and NASDAQ under the symbol PYR, and on the Frankfurt Exchange under the symbol 8PY. Before we start, just the typical forward-looking statement. You can find this on our website as well. Take a few moments, review it. At the bottom of the slide, you'll see a cutaway of pictures of our facility to give you a sense of what our facility looks like. It's a 40,000 square foot facility in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And what Chris alluded to is we use something called plasma. For those that don't know, it's the first state of matter. And I won't get too Star Trek-ish here, but your science school teacher may have described to you 3 states of matter: a solid, liquid, and a gas. And an example of a solid was an ice cube. If you heat it up, it becomes the next state, liquid, water. And then you heat up water, it becomes the next state, which is gas, steam. You heat up a gas, and it becomes a plasma. And over here on the right-hand side are 2 of our plasma torches. They're like hair dryers. You know, a hair dryer, you take cold air, you heat it up, it becomes hot air. Well, if you superheat a gas, it becomes plasma. And what we like about plasma is it's very transformative. It transforms things from one element to another. And essentially what we do is we take these plasma torches and we put them into different processes, some of which I'll describe to you today. And they're very, very exciting. We've been around for over 25 years. We have 110 patents to our name, over 70 employees. You saw a picture of our facilities in the previous slide. And over this time, we've developed one of the highest concentrations of plasma expertise under one roof anywhere in the world. We don't know of anyone that has a higher concentration. In that period of time, over the past 25 years, we've become a world leader in advanced plasma technologies. And we've been focusing on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Well, I'll describe some of our offerings in a moment. And what's interesting is that our offerings stand on their own without the necessity of having government support or tax credits or greenhouse gas certificates. They stand on their own. And I think that is also a unique feature amongst our offerings. We refined our capabilities with the US Navy. Many, many years ago, the US Navy was looking at destroying garbage. They're mandated by Congress to destroy garbage on the ship. They weren't allowed to throw it overboard when they're in arenas of peace, peaceful arenas, not in theaters of war. Make a long story short, they were faced with incinerator projects that went through 3 decks of aircraft carrier and weighed over 100 tons. Can you imagine? This the highest tech platform probably in the world, where every inch is called for. You have basically a 3-story, 100-ton garbage can, which obviously was not a palatable option. So they came to us because on paper, plasma should work. It could make something lightweight, compact. And to make a long story short, we did. We delivered. We're in the design of the U.S. aircraft carrier. That means anytime they come out with new aircraft carriers, they come to us for these systems. We delivered two, one in 2011 and one in 2012, and we recently just signed a contract for 2 systems last September for $11.5 million. So as I said, we're in the design, so they come to us. But you wouldn't build a business around supplying waste treatment systems, waste destruction systems, every time an aircraft carrier comes out, right? I think you'd agree. They don't come out often enough. But what it did do was our relationship with the military, what it did do was it funded our R&D, and it gave us a lot of credibility, as you can imagine. And it validated our ability to apply commercial applications to very large, very discerning entities. Now, this is a multi-billion-dollar client, who has pretty much any technology at their fingertips, and they chose ours. What it did do also was it enabled us to get into what were our 4 current offerings. 1, iron ore pelletization. 2, aluminum dross recovery. 3, waste treatment, which I spoke to you about. And the 3rd, additive manufacturing. These are 4 very independent business lines, offerings, and they de-risk the company. Iron ore pelletization is just a sexy way of describing how we concentrate iron ore at the source. Aluminum dross recovery is actually recovering a valuable metal from a waste stream. Waste treatment, I gave you some optics of that. And in metal powders for additive manufacturing, what we do is we convert a wire into small spherical powders, ideal for 3D printing, metal 3D printing. Each one of these business lines have been vetted and adopted by a multi-billion-dollar industry leader, and you'll see a bit how that comes into play in a moment. In iron ore pelletization, as I mentioned to you, that's where they concentrate iron ore at the source before you transport it. They typically use fossil fuel burners to heat up the furnaces. Each one of these furnaces could have up to 50 of these diesel burners. And you have multiple furnaces on a site, sometimes up to a dozen furnaces. So we're talking about thousands and thousands of these fossil fuel burners heating up these furnaces. We came upon an opportunity to consider replacing these fossil fuel burners with our clean plasma torches. So plasma does not impact does not have any greenhouse gas emissions at all, 0. So by trading out a diesel burner with a plasma torch, you're effectively getting 0 greenhouse gas emissions as a result. So what happened was we came upon an opportunity in Sweden, whose goal is to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, I think, to 0 by the 2030 or something like that, 2035. And they were targeting the iron ore pelletization industry, particularly these fossil fuel burners. So we sold them a torch because they wanted to have a look-see, so to speak, to see what would the effect be if a plasma torch replaced a diesel burner. The long and short of it was amazing results. It's actually just a plug and play. Can you believe that? You take out the diesel burner, you put in the plasma torch, you make a few adjustments, and you're off to the races. Second, you don't have to shut down the system to do that. You can run your system and change out the diesel burner with plasma torches, so there's no lost revenues from that perspective. And when everything's taken into consideration, it's more economical. So great news coming out of Sweden. Our goal was basically to be considered should Sweden decide to change out their diesel burners with their fossil fuel burners with plasma torches. We did not know that the industry as a whole was under significant pressure to reduce greenhouse gases. Pressure from environmentalists, shareholders, the board, and interestingly enough, from lending institutions, which were tying lending facilities to reducing their greenhouse gas emissions. So as you can expect, when this news came out, people started knocking on our door, and we have announced, and previously we've announced that we're talking to clients A, B, and C in the iron ore pelletization industry, who as a total of these 3 have a potential for over 1,000 torches. Where are we with respect to these clients? I think we've moved very fast. Since about 18 months ago, with the success in Sweden, we came out of nowhere. We were not on their radar. So first of all, they had to figure out who we were, what we do. Then they typically are going through a computer simulation. So they want to know that their particular facility, there's nothing untoward happening. So there's a computer simulation that's done. And now we're in the torch ordering phase where they order 1 to 5 torches. Again, to take a look, see. Very conservative industry. They're moving very quickly, in my opinion. And they're ticking the boxes, all with a goal to see, all with the goal of replacing their diesel burners with our plasma torches. We sold recently to client A. So client A, first one, we did a computer simulation. Now they bought a torch for $1.8 million, and we're in the process of delivering that. We press release that we expect each torch to have a net present value revenue to us of $3 million per torch. I would suggest that this $1.8 million makes this number relatively conservative. So the iron ore pelletization industry, these 3 clients we started with, over 1,000 torches here. The total iron ore pelletization industry, we estimate to be $10 billion potential business. We have the patent. We have the patent to change out diesel burners with plasma torches. We don't have them in other industries, but other industries are approaching us, and we do have a first mover advantage: cement, steel, aluminum, and automotive. Very exciting part of the business. It's something that we can do in the back of an envelope. It's very, very simple for us. How would we address a large order? We do not manufacture these things on site. We sub them out. We sub them out to different suppliers. So, and we can also drop ship it at the iron ore pelletization site, and they have a significant depth in engineering services. So they do have the engineering depth to install it themselves. We can help them install it virtually. That's not a problem. And future torches, what we could do is just drop ship them there. They can put them in themselves. Very, very interesting business model. Aluminum dross, the second offering. Again, this is an offering where we recover a valuable metal in the aluminum industry coming off aluminum smelter. So what happens in aluminum smelter, the aluminum comes off, it comes in contact with oxygen, and it forms a dross on the surface. That dross is like a sponge. It sucks up valuable metal. They don't like that. They scoop it off, put it to the side. But there's valuable metal in there, right? They want to recover it. So they send it off site to a third party who recovers the metal. Why off site? Typically, third parties use salt in the recovery process, and salt cannot come in contact with the aluminum smelter because it'll contaminate the batch. So what you have here, just imagine, you got to cool the dross, transport it, heat it up, recover the metal, cool down the metal, send it back, heat it up again, put it back in the smelter. So a lot of heating, cooling, transportation. That's the traditional process. Aluminum dross, costly transportation. They have a low metal recovery. And because they're using salt, they have these salt cakes at the end, which are considered to be hazardous and have to be dealt with. We came up with a salt-free process called dross rate. You can be on site, so lower OPEX, lower CAPEX. We have a higher aluminum recovery, and we come out with a clean residue. I'll come back to this in a second. I'm going to skip ahead and speak to the progression in the sales progression for dross rate. In 2016, we came up with our first order for about 600K. It was difficult because, first of all, nobody believed that you could do it without salt. And so anyway, so we got the first deal for 600K. A year later, we delivered it. And a couple of months later, we thought it would be about a year later. A couple of months later, the same client ordered a second system for $1 million. Basically the same system. And then we got another 2-system order in 2018. Fast forward to 2019, when the largest request for quote came out for about a 7-system order. And our technology won it. $20 million for basically 7 systems. Remember, in 2016, we sold one for 600K. What's interesting about this particular system, the 2019-2020 order, it was, again, a multi-billion-dollar aluminum smelter. They were looking to choose the best technology, the best in its class, and our technology won it. And it was done in such a way that we were inside the fence. So when we're inside the fence, that means on the other side of the fence, looking at what's happening and helping out, we call that the golden ticket. We had a golden ticket experience with the US military. Once we were inside with them, we saw other opportunities other than the US aircraft carrier. One is we destroy chemical warfare weapons. We developed a system to destroy chemical warfare weapons for special operations. So they find out, in this particular village, there's chemical warfare weapons. They surround the village, the perimeter, they secure the perimeter, they destroy the chemical warfare weapons, they get out, they destroy our system and get out. Well, that's the idea. Once you're inside the fence, you see lots of other opportunities. And we call that the golden ticket. And how does it apply here? Interestingly, once we were inside the fence, we saw how they handle clean residue. They either landfill it or they sell it to the cement industry as a flux. This is very, very exciting because at this particular time, governments are banning the landfilling of this clean residue. Notwithstanding the fact that it's not hazardous, they're starting to ban it. And smelters are wondering what are they going to do with it? Well, we found a technology that's been out there for some time. It's not R&D, it's not blue sky, that we can take this residue and convert it into high value added specialty chemicals like aluminum and ammonium sulfate. And we've mentioned that we're in the final stages of locking up this technology in a joint venture where we will be able to sell alongside our dross right, which is already a very strong offering. I mean, we won the biggest quote ever put out to bid. And we'll be able to also offer it separately to places that have the similar residues. So this is a huge opportunity because I call it the coffee and donut strategy. We're already there. We're already selling coffee. Very little effort. We add on a donut. This donut is a cool donut because somebody's actually argued with us or suggested that we should give away our technology for free, our dross right for free, and just pick up the residues. I'm going to try and rush along here because we're running out of time. Additive manufacturing. With that, remember I told you we actually can take wire and make it into powders for 3D printing. We invented the process called plasma atomization. It's now a household name in the industry. GE is using our old technology. We have an exclusive arrangement with Aubert Duval, which is a subsidiary of Aramet, another multi-billion-dollar company. And in that particular relationship, it's a mutually exclusive supply arrangement where we supply them with titanium powder and they buy exclusively from us to service the additive manufacturing industry in Europe. What's key here, it's a little teaser, I'll leave it with you, is that Aramet, in their 100-year history, we're told, until they did a deal with us, they had never sold something they don't own. So again, that speaks to our credibility as a company. You have multi-billion-dollar companies putting their name and reputation behind our products. So what I've described to you are basically four transforming technologies where we've established a relationship with multi-billion-dollar companies who have vetted the technology. It's de-risked the company because each one of these are independent. But we haven't gone too far afield that we don't stick to our knitting. Also, at the same time, we've actually identified and are starting to develop derivative future opportunities. One I mentioned to you is the dross right residue. The dross right residue. The other is creating a torch for tunneling. And then there's an opportunity that we're developing with HPQ, a client of ours, to convert quartz, the high pure silicon metal for solar panels. But more interestingly enough, these days, creating nano powder silicon metal, converting to nano powders and wire for lithium-ion batteries for the EV market. Very interesting. I could talk about this for another half hour alone. What's happened over the past year, we've gotten noticed because of COVID, people have been locked down. It's a very complicated company. A year ago, we had a very complicated balance sheet. We've simplified our offerings since that time. We've cleaned up our balance sheet. We have no debt, relatively no debt, other than a $190K interest-free loan from the government that we keep. We have $30 million on our balance sheet in cash. And we've got noticed, and pretty much by any financial matrix, we're just nailing it out of the park. Our backlog has gone from 20 million, about 7.5 million 18 months ago to 30 million today and increasing. As I said, cash on hand, about $27 million, very few warrants, very little debt, running between $8 and $9 a share Canadian on the TSX and on the TSX. Market cap over $1 billion. We've publicly announced that given our strong balance sheet, it will help us accelerate our organic growth and take advantage of the golden ticket that I mentioned to you before about being inside the fence. And as you can imagine, synergistic mergers and acquisitions. We're targeting some private companies, which we've also announced. Again, taking advantage at times of the golden ticket advantage. All of them focusing on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So in short, I've described to you a company that has proprietary patent technology, which has been vetted and adopted by multiple multi-billion-dollar companies who have done their own due diligence. We have a fully commercialized solutions as well as a long tail of additional market applications, strong balance sheet, which will help us accelerate growth. And our focus is on GHG emission reduction these days. Very strong alignment of management and shareholders. I own close to 50% of the company. And as I've said many times in the past, I'm not here for the quarter or for the year. I'm here to build a dynasty. If I was here, I would have, if I wasn't, I would have sold out a long time ago. And we're governed by a very strong board. But given the time, I won't go into details. Very strong members. Myself and Rodena were the only employee directors. All the rest, seasoned board members, and they lend themselves well to our company. On that note, I don't know if we have much time, Chris. I hope I made it under the line. Very difficult. It's like 4 companies in one to do in a few minutes.
The good news is, Peter, you're just on time. We have a lot of questions already in the queue. And for everyone who is tuning in, thank you again. And there are several ways that you can ultimately submit a question. You can email me at chris@ldmicro.com. If you are lucky or unlucky enough to have my cell phone, you can text me. Or you can also use the Q&A function in the Zoom app, which is located right below my finger. So Peter, when you are ready, let me know and we'll go through these.
Sure.
Okay. Can you go back to the beginning? How did you guys start and what was the first application used for your technology? Thank you for the question.
Well, way back when, it was, we've been around for some time. We started out, plasma was always an expensive way to do whatever you want. X, fill in the blank. And it was an application, it was a process looking for an application back when we started out. So what we did was we had to simplify it. And the US military helped us do that because, you know, this plasma torch system that they put on the aircraft carrier was going to be used by young sailors. So they spent a lot of time and money simplifying it and making it easy to operate, which a lot of plasma torch companies, the difficulty is it's not very easy to operate. So your question is, how did we start out? We started out as an R&D company looking for a path, and the path forward ended up being with the US Navy, which at the time people thought I was insane. It was hard enough to try and find a plasma-based solution to waste on land. So then we decided to do it to marine specs, and people thought we were nuts. I mean, marine specs are much more difficult. And then when they heard we're doing it to Navy specs, which is the top of the top, most stringent in the Marine, they thought I was basically certifiable. But the bottom line is, you know, we typically, you know, that's what we did. We did it to those specs, and then what we do is now we're dumbing down, if you will, and slowly maybe applying it to land-based systems.
Understood. Plasma technology has been around for a long time. What is that one thing that you guys can do that no other plasma company can imitate?
We can make it work. That's being a little obnoxious. Basically, what we've done is, well, it's been around as a cutting tool since the 1950s. It's been used in different applications. What we've been able to do is take a torch, and without going into all the technology, but I'll give you an example. Remember I tell you, you take a gas and you heat it up to make it into a plasma inside that torch. Well, there's an arc that's formed. And it's not a simple task to control that arc. That arc, if it touches the edge too long, it'll put a hole through the torch. And some people use all sorts of crazy ideas to solve that problem. There's one technology out there that puts a big magnet donut around it. To me, it's an unmanageable situation. So to make a long story short, what we've done is we've, as I mentioned earlier, we have one of the largest concentrations of plasma expertise under one roof. We also have connections with universities and others with plasma knowledge. Because electricity is cheap, the universities in Montreal have a lot of engineers that study plasma. So we're a natural magnet for plasma knowledge. And we've taken that plasma knowledge and applied it to the difficulties in plasma, in managing a plasma torch. And so I believe our differentiating factor is the depth of knowledge and our ability to apply it commercially, instead of like R&D and some sort of intellectual approach. We actually apply it commercially to commercial applications.
So the next question comes from John. How long did it take to convince the US Navy that they should be using PYR? And the follow-up question is, do you think they'll use the technology for other applications outside of waste management?
So how long did it take them? That's interesting because they needed a different solution to the one that was readily available, which was an incinerator-based technology that went through 3 decks of aircraft carrier and was compact. So when you have a carrot out there and you say, listen, we can make it more compact and lightweight, there's a lot of support from the U.S. Navy to help us develop that. They paid us not just cost, they paid us handsomely to develop a system. The story is that although they're going for funding, so we were always just 1 notch below the funding. So they cut it off at 5, we were number 6. They cut it off at 8, we were number 9. Eventually it lined up that they cut it off whatever, we were in the game, and they funded us. It took about a good 4 years, I think, don't quote me on it, but it wasn't like overnight. It was a consistent knocking on their door, them coming back to us, we going back to them, and we finding out what they needed. They funded a little bit more. So it was a lot of perseverance, but always with a knowledge that we could solve the problem.
Well, Peter, from my years of experience as an investor, the 2 hardest customers to get are any hospital or the federal government. So congratulations on that.
I'll tell you what's interesting. We never realized we've told many times what you did. It's impossible. A small company to get the attention of the U.S. Navy, the military, and to continue a relationship with them, it's almost next to impossible.
Correct.
And I said, you know what? I was walking my dog in the dog park, and I noticed how little dogs in the dog park don't realize that they're not big dogs. All they see is big dogs, and they think they're a big dog, and they act like it. In a dog park. I think we were like that to some degree. We may have been fighting above our weight, but we didn't realize it. And we just kept on progressing, and we kept on doing it, and we kept on knocking on the door as if we should be there. And yeah, so we didn't know better. And we just did what we thought we should do, and it worked out.
So this is 2 questions from an existing shareholder. How is the pipeline for new business? And then what industries are you gaining the most traction with?
That's a tough one to answer because we haven't publicized it. So how is the pipeline? Very healthy. I mean, when you look at what we said in our NDA and the number of contracts that I think we're alluding to or talking to, you just do the math, and the pipeline is very, very, very healthy. What industries? Well, you can imagine the top ones right now are torches and DROSRITE related. We have slowed down our DROSRITE a tiny bit just so we can get that other technology on that we described that we're going to lock up as a joint venture, and then we can go gangbusters. And so we've been teasing the market a bit, the DROSRITE market a bit, and as soon as we get this thing lined up, we're going to be going gangbusters. So DROSRITE, torches. Oh, additive manufacturing. Additive manufacturing is extremely interesting because we're coming on stream this year In fact, I can't believe I ignored it. It's wow. We're coming up with we're producing powders this year, and I think it's got the attention of quite a few people. A lot of people have been waiting for it. There's an OEM in North America that's been waiting for it. There's a number in Europe that have been waiting for it, with bated breath, so to speak. And we got the attention of Kathy Wood at one point, and why she liked us apparently is for our 3D printing capabilities, producing powders. She put us in her ETF, her 3D printing ETF. And I hope I answered that question for the gentleman.
You did. Thank you. Out of the 4 existing big markets, which one has the lowest hanging fruit in the near term? Thank you for the question.
I would suggest the environmental side. On the environmental side, it's a lower. No, did he say lowest hanging fruit or not? Yeah. Which one is the lowest hanging?
In the near term, what industry segment has the lowest hanging fruit?
Oh, lowest hanging fruit. That's a hard one. That's a really, really hard one. Very hard one. Drossite and iron ore and torches are huge, and right there is powders for 3D printing. It's very hard to choose. Honestly, I'm not just trying to confuse people. Those 3 are just neck to neck in terms of busting out or continuing their progression. The one that is not the lowest hanging fruit, at least, is my opinion, is the environmental side. That's oftentimes very long lead from discussion to contract. We're looking at that one in opportunistic situations where people come to us and ask us for something. Let's say it's an island waste or something, or a boardroom waste. A waste where a boardroom wants to take care of it inside the fence and not ship it out. So we're looking at those on a case-by-case basis, but it's different from the other ones where we have a BD effort, a really big BD effort supporting the other 3 offerings.
Peter, I thought this was a great question. Can you talk about the complexities when it comes to installations? Has it become easier and cheaper to install with more experience?
Yeah, so particularly with Drossite, most certainly. With Drossite, what we did was we sold one system, and we waited. Like we really wanted just to sell one instead of a whole bunch, because we wanted to learn from that first installation. You'll make mistakes. You'll over-engineer certain parts. You'll under-engineer other parts. So the first one is always a test. You know, I hate to say that, but it's a test. The ones that come out subsequently, we can make them cheaper, faster, better. And obviously I think that's not just with us, it's with anybody. So yes, you're 100% right. The more you install, the better you become. You know where to cut angles and costs. It becomes better, most certainly.
On a competitive landscape, how has it changed over the past decade? And will your IP be strong enough to allow you to keep your competitive edge?
So we're at the forefront of the technology, and one of the things we've always done is stay at the forefront of the technology. I'll take powders, for instance. We came upon, we first developed the concept of using plasma torches to convert titanium wires to small spherical powders because we needed them for another project. This was before 3D printing became sexy. We needed it for a project we were doing with NATO to make lightweight armor, and we couldn't find small spherical titanium powders. So we went and made them ourselves. Well, if we found them, they're too expensive. So we went and made them ourselves. And then we fell into the fact that a striker wanted our powders for their biomedical implants. And we saw there was another purpose for them. Having said that, eventually they became accepted in the 3D printing industry, the plasma atomized powders. But we didn't just sit on our laurels. Our old technology creates a bell curve distribution where you're selling a particular particle size distribution, but you're making a lot more, so you have to store it. So you have to, when you're making these for commercial applications, you have to have bunkers for storage. So anyways, long and short, we realized if we were going to be supplying these powders into the marketplace, we couldn't do it using the old technology. So we made a whole bunch of improvements where we narrowed the particle size distribution to reduce waste. We increased the production rate, and we decreased the cap costs and the operational costs, which puts us head and shoulders above any of the other competitors. So that's how we stay ahead of competition. We start pioneering new ways to do what we've been doing before better. And in this case, what it's done, Chris, is really interesting. By increasing the production rate, you're now opening up the possibility of processing different wires, different metals, which before were not economical because you weren't going fast enough. So to answer your question, the landscape for the past 12 years is difficult to talk about here, but in terms of our patents and will it be strong enough to maintain our lead, we don't rest just on our patents. We start continuously developing and improving what we've already done, because we realize if the world goes in the way it should be, there'll be something out there that's going to make us obsolete. Is it going to be a week from now? Is it going to be 100 years from now? But something's going to make what we're doing obsolete. And that's how the world should evolve. We're going to make our own selves obsolete. That's our goal. Our goal is to make ourselves obsolete.
Roger, even
our own self obsolete.
You know, a lot of people like to comment on basically Sears being the retail power, you know, over a 50-year, 100-year period. And now it's Amazon. And even Jeff Bezos publicly announced that even one day, even Amazon is going to, you know, no longer be the big kid in town.
So that's how it should be, right, Chris?
No,
it should. How it evolves, right?
Well, look, I mean, I could just use LD Micro as an example. We are in a very competitive environment with a lot of people to try to replicate what we do. So we have to do things that no one else can emulate. And that's what keeps me going every single day. And that's probably what keeps you. There was one question about, and maybe we should ask this because I think it would be timely. If you can control one variable at the company, which variable would it be?
One variable of the company.
Yeah. So in this case, just looking from the outside.
I grew up, Chris, with multiple choice tests. Can you give me a multiple choice here?
Yeah. So would it be would it be, you know, owning your technology? Would it be being the top guy in the competitive, you know, in the competitive landscape? Would it be making sure that you have the existing infrastructure at Pyrogenesis now to basically cope with all the interest and demand? You know, that's kind of a, you know, for me at LD Micro, if I could control anything, I would want the market to go up, you know, 0.1% every single day. But I can't, because I don't have control over that variable. And that's why this person was kind of asking what would essentially make, you know, your visibility, your execution, your cash flow generation, you know, bigger over time. I think that's probably what they're implying.
If I could control one thing, it would be our clients' time to making decisions. Okay, and our getting used to it. The multi-billion-dollar companies are like, you know, we're like a speedboat. You know, we could turn on a dime in the water. They're like a big ocean liner. It just takes a lot of time to move, even when they want to move. Even when they want to move fast, it's slow. So if I could control that a bit better, it'd be nice to have them, you know, make decisions a little faster. Other than that, all of the things you mentioned, we do fairly well. We control them fairly well, as you know.
Understood. So let me give you some good news and bad news. The good news is we have around 30 more questions. The bad news is we have 20 minutes. So as you and I kind of joked about the timing. So let's
take every other one. Take every other one.
Yeah, so we'll do this as quickly as we can. And there was a gentleman by the name of Blair. Blair, I just want to let you know that if you're on this call, I see you and I'm not ignoring your questions. I just think that this would be smarter to forward to investor relations so that they have the time to answer. But I see you and thank you again for your submissions. They were excellent questions. So let's begin. So I'll try
to answer them real quickly as well.
Yeah, let's do this. In an order of magnitude, is there a volume of inert gas and kilowatts used perhaps in an hour for the operation of the torch?
We don't give that information out.
Understood. That's what I thought. So, let's see if we're 0 for 2. How difficult is it to mount and dismount the temperature feed discharge of an operational system?
Not difficult.
Okay, that was a good answer. I like the way you're playing this, Peter. Okay, so let me see if I can
It
ask.
might be difficult for people who don't know how to.
Well, no, the worst part is I got to look this way to get them. And sometimes there's an inappropriate question, very rarely. So you got to be careful. It's like reading a teleprompter.
Throw those out too. We'll have fun with those.
Okay, Jamie, thank you for the question. What can you tell us about plasma tools and ground tunneling efficiency?
Plasma tools and ground tunneling efficiency is. I'd have to compare it to something. We have a client in that area, so I'd have to be careful of saying things that are part of the NDA.
Respect.
We're happy with tunneling. Very happy with. We're happy with where it could go. That's what we're happy about.
Lex asked, "Do you profit from GE using your own technology?"
No, other than them being in the marketplace and putting their name behind it and getting attention. But no, we don't.
Aghay Saeed Piruz, welcome fellow Iranian. What metal powders could be profitably manufactured by plasma?
That's interesting. I could answer it a different way. We have processed things other than titanium. One of the things we mentioned is Inconel. I have to be careful here because I don't think we've mentioned much. We also process another wire for a U.S. government agency. So you can produce, because you said economically, so I haven't looked at all the economics, but we can produce we can process pretty much any wire, whether it's economical or not, will depend on the production rate, amongst other things. The sandbox for that business is so big, titanium is just a small corner of it.
Understood. Guy asks, any business with Permafix, PFIX, in the foreseeable future? I'm assuming that has some implications with the new board member that you.
Yeah, the board member was added because of his own skills, not because of where he comes from or there's a relationship or discussions with that company at all. You never say no, but there's nothing in the works. There's no contemplated. Don't read anything into the board. Don't read anything more than to him. He's just a good board member.
Understood. Steve asks, says, great presentation, great market opportunities. How fast can the company ramp up production and revenues? Thank you, Steve.
Very fast.
Okay.
There we go. Well, yeah. Look at what we've done. Look at what we've done so far. We've gone from 4 million or so revenues in 2019 to 18 million in 2020. I just told you that we don't need facility. Well, we need some facility, but not. We can produce our torches through suppliers that are, so we're not limited by our manufacturing capacity. I don't know the last time we built a drawstrike system in our facility. You know, it's built outside. That's what the U.S. military taught us to have, is multiple suppliers for every screw, multiple suppliers. So if things go bad, you have that other. But again, it's not just things go bad. If things go good and you have a big order, you have multiple suppliers. So we learned that lesson early on. In fact, we had to learn that lesson as part of doing business with the U.S. military. So ramping up our revenues is not restricted by manufacturing capacity as one may think. It actually is something actually different. It's, you need to have project managers managing these suppliers. So you need to have enough project managers in place. And I'd argue that project management is easier to hire than manufacturing facilities.
I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but it's close enough that I'll ask it. Rich, any feedback on the torch in use of the mining company? I don't know if you disclosed.
I can't talk to that.
Of course. Okay. So now I'm 0 for 2. Ramon, are acquisition targets also looked at outside of Canada?
Oh, most certainly. Most certainly.
Martin asks, is it true that you invented plasma torches to create 3D powders and that GE uses your own technology? Thank you.
So we didn't invent plasma torches to do that specifically. As I mentioned before, we were already making plasma torches. Originally, our big breakthrough was to make them and apply them to waste treatment for on board U.S. aircraft carrier, and that we used them to make powders for ourselves, titanium powders for ourselves, without realizing that 3D printing was eventually going to evolve from plastics into metal. And when it did, it started off with titanium, which was a bit of luck. And our powders were perfectly sized for that application. So we did not invent plasma torches for that specifically. And yes, GE uses our old technology.
Jack comments, hello guys, the product is great. Peter, how will you spread the word about PYR? Any plans for conference calls so analysts can attend?
Yeah, so we've been actively we're trying to spread the word since about January about the company. Conferences like this, spreading the word like this, knocking on doors, and we are getting attention, I guess, as funds are investing in us. TD, CIBC is invested in us. Kathy Wood's ETF, amongst others. I mean, those are ones that are public. You can find that out there on your own. Sorry, Chris, I forget the second part of his question.
He wants to ask, he's asking about doing traditional conference calls and getting.
Oh, yeah, so earnings calls. Yes, I think there's a need for that. I think there's an expectation for that. We did it this particular quarter because, we're fast out of the box. We went to TSX, we went to NASDAQ, we're doing a couple of other things. I tend to talk a lot, so I have to be careful on those earnings calls. Anyway, we'll start doing, we're going to get into that.
I got to be careful too, because he's asking a follow-up question on when you guys are going to go on Bloomberg. So what we'll do after this is I'm very close with a Bloomberg host. So if Ms. Kafal wants to contact me, I'll put you in touch with the right person. Yep. So I got you covered, Jack, on that.
Thanks. We don't typically go out. We like being invited to those type of things. We don't want to push. When they think the time is right to interview us, they'll interview us.
Exactly. And I think that's the right approach. Steve, a follow-up question. Any issues with the supply chain currently?
None really. It'd be a little arrogant of me to say COVID hasn't affected supply chains. It just so happens that our supply chain seems to also be connected with military or the food industry, so they're open. We were blessed with that, and our clients are big clients that happen to be military or aluminum industry is considered to be a primary or a strategic industry. So our suppliers, our clients, I like to say we're resistant to COVID, not proof, not COVID proof. And so far it's held. I mean, there's been certain delays. Oh, by the way, I mean, we all know right now in the world, there's huge delays in transportation. Trying to get something from point A to point B is costing a hell of a lot of money.
Correct.
And cause a lot of delays. But these are things that are affecting all of us. So, we're not immune to things that are affecting all of us, like the cost of transportation has gone up like crazy over the past few weeks.
Peter, we have 10 minutes and we still have a megaton of questions. So let me get the easy one out. Chris, will you ever consider wearing a toupee? No. Dirk asks, is the Boston Metal solution not a treat for the entire pelletization industry? Thank you for the question, Dirk.
Is what? The
Boston Metal solution not a treat for the entire pelletization industry?
I don't know what he means by that.
That's fine. Is the tunneling client the Elon Musk boring company? I don't think you could disclose that even if it was. Is Kathy Wood from ARC not interested to take a direct participation in HBQ? I don't really understand that question.
So I can't speak for her, and I can't speak for I can't speak for her in that respect.
Okay, so let's just kind of put it, guys, there's actually a few questions about Tesla and the Boring Company. I don't think that Peter can answer those, so I apologize. But if you want to be more adamant, you can email me at chris@ldmicro.com. Let's keep going through here. Is Aramet not a company of the former Belgian financier Albert Ferrer?
I don't know.
Okay. Let's see.
I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't even know what that would mean if he was.
Yeah,
so.
I don't. Well, what happens, Peter, is that people basically give me questions and they call me and they're pissed that I didn't answer. So I try to encompass it. I try to be,
sure, my time's your time. Go ahead.
No, look, I have questions too. You know, I want to get to those as well. Saeed, salam again. What metal piercers are best to manufacture are by plasma. We're
What
the
metal?
best.
Metal?
Metal piercers?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay. Saeed Bebash.
Sorry.
Terrence, with the additive manufacturing portion, is the discussion with the large North American OEM targeting installation one of your powder towers within the customer's production line directly? Thank you, Terrence.
Well, we don't do that. We produce powders. We generate revenues from that, and it's recurring revenues, and that's what we're targeting.
I see. Do some clients wait before ordering to see if they can receive grants with the new Biden plan to buy plasma torches?
I would suggest that would be smart for them to do, right? So how oftentimes these grants and support work is if you start doing it, then you run afoul of being able to apply for it. And when you're talking about big bucks, you know, getting some of this grant money to help support your initiatives, even if you can afford to do it without it, is a smart move. It's a very smart move. I also think that I would suggest that as the world starts coming out of the COVID financial stresses and finding ways to stimulate the economies, they seem to be looking at green technologies. And I suggest that Pyrogenesis is ideally positioned for partnerships with clients who want to do that, because we've had a history of dealing successfully with multi-billion-dollar companies. We have a history of being around. So we're not just somebody that's been created over the past 6 months just to tap into that type of financing. So I think we're ideally situated. And yes, I do believe they must be. In fact, I know at least of a couple that are doing that. Sorry, Chris, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I had to cough. Van asks, for plasma torches, how many torches can the existing electrical grid support at one iron ore site?
It depends on the site. But specifically to that question that some people are suggesting would restrict or impede our ability to supply torches, I would suggest to you that smarter people than us have actually looked at it and said it's not an issue to execute on their plans. They're not all going to be ordered today. They'll be phased in over a period of time. And so I don't think that's an impediment that we're really considering as a real impediment.
When do you think PYR will see cash flow from the additive business?
Well, I said we're going to start selling powders this year. So cash flow coming from those powders would be, even if we sold, you know, an ounce or a kilo, I mean, cash flow would start coming in this year.
Are there any negotiations going on for the other dross right contracts coming later this year?
So are there any dross right contracts under discussion? I alluded to the fact that we are slowed down the discussions, got people excited about the residue handling, because if you can go in and say, we're going to handle your dross and we're going to handle your residue at the same time, it's really a tough act to beat.
Jerry asks, can you talk about what your new warehouse space will be used for if you aren't building the torches on site for 3D printing materials?
No, we will we're just busting out of the old one, so we need some more space.
Got it. Sam asks, do you have a warranty for your torches? I would hope so.
Yeah,
what about service recurring maintenance contracts?
Yeah, there's a lot. That's where a nice part of the business is on the recurring revenue and the maintenance and the recurring revenue from spare parts. So once a torch is in there, it's usually in a type of facility that's going to be there for a while. It's not, you know, just for a couple of weeks. So that's a huge part of our business model, is the recurring revenue coming from even on the aircraft carriers. We have 2 out there now. We're going to have another 2. That's 4. And in the past, we made quite a bit of money every year from contracts coming from supporting those 2.
Okay, so we have a comment. Thank you, Peter and Chris. This has been a great interview. The Q&A portion has granted Peter to touch up on a lot of areas. Martine asks, now that the largest aluminum smelter in North America, Alouette, has called on your services, I imagine that all the others in the world should know by now too. I would assume that that is correct. Who will market the byproducts that will come out of the drossite systems? Will it be PYR or the aluminum smelters?
Well, well, it will be PYR or the aluminum smelters. No. What happens is there's a residue that comes off that they typically sell to the cement industry very cheap, or they have to pay the landfill. So what we'll do is we'll come and say, listen, we'll take care of that problem at the same time. And so we will be the one marketing that to the smelters.
Awesome. So listen, there are still more questions coming in, you guys. I apologize that I didn't get to all of them. Please email me at chris@ldmicro.com. Now, look, it's my turn. So Peter, I'm curious. I mean, look, I've been following the company for a long time. I really appreciate you guys, coming today. What has been the biggest change for you now that the company has gone from essentially a sub-100 million market cap to $1 billion? Has it changed, what you do during the course of the day, or where you spend the most time on?
So nothing's really changed. And again, that might sound a little, because obviously it's changed. I mean, we have cash on the balance sheet. As a small company, you always want to make sure that you can keep the lights on, everybody gets paid, and everything's humming. But you don't want to over finance yourself and give away money when you don't need to. So it's always that's a juggling act. Well, now we don't have to concentrate too much on that juggling act. We can concentrate on other things. We've uplisted to the TSX, the Toronto Stock Exchange, and the NASDAQ. There's not really anywhere else you can actually uplist to. So those focuses of constantly looking and making sure in cash flow, although we're still the biggest, we're still cheap asses, okay? What got us here was managing every nickel, and we're still gonna do that. But the concentration of the team, of the accounting team, of the finance team, to uplist to 2 different exchanges, do a prospectus financing, and keep the lights on, took a lot of time and effort. Now that same effort can be put on things that are going to really improve the cash flow, the revenues, I say acquisitions. The same brains can be put to that, and that's where you get a lot more value, I think. So yeah, I guess it has changed a bit over the past year, but it's still really focused on the business. And the fact that it's a multi-billion-dollar company, I mean, maybe we'd be maybe we'd be a $20 million company with cash on our balance sheet. We'd still have this saying, for being a billion-dollar company doesn't really change us internally.
Second question: have you actually been on one of these aircraft carriers before? They're pretty amazing.
Yes, I have been. Yeah.
It is for anyone who's never been, you should go. And if you want to find a great place for aircraft carriers, San Diego, California. And then last question: what is the craziest thing you guys have ever torched?
Jeez, what's it? Well, I can't say.
No, I know you can't. See, that's why you could never invite me to your headquarters, because I would just bring a bunch of things that I wouldn't want anyone to see anymore, like these documents and stuff. But you know how they have these YouTube things.
I'll tell you the craziest thing that we were asked to torch was many years ago. I'm talking about probably 15 years ago. Somebody from Asia came and was thinking about, instead of cremating people, using plasma, convert it into a glassy rock so they could wear it on their thing. And he needed to get some religious permits for it. So I said, okay, go figure that one out. And so I've also had ideas of putting plasma torches on Zabonis for to melt snow. I mean, we have some pretty crazy ideas, but in crazy ideas, sometimes you find these gems, that are just,
of course,
that's what you knock it out of the park with. So, yeah, I can tell you some of the crazy things, but I can't tell you the craziest thing we've torched. I can't, not here.
Understood. Well, listen, Peter, it was a pleasure spending the hour with you.
Shorts. We like torching shorts. That's what we like doing.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
And by the way, listen, if anyone came up with that cremation idea, they're not going to get a cent out of me. So with that, it was a pleasure chatting with you. For anyone that wants more information, pyrogenesis.com. The ticker is PYR, both on the NASDAQ now. Congratulations, as well as the TSX. Peter, I will see you on the other side. Thank you again for all your time and energy.
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you.
Bye-bye.